All right, welcome to another podcast. I'm Tom Schneider with Stuck and Rut.
I'm Taylor Riley with 360 Sportsman.
Today we have Lindsay Persico, right? Did I pronounce that right, Lindsay?
No, but it's okay. Nobody ever does. It's
Ah,
Persico.
I I've known you long enough. I should have it down by now.
It's
Uh,
okay. It's weird.
you're basically my second sister.
I know.
So
I love that.
Uh, She has done a lot in a lot of people's lives. And in my life, she's really helped expand 360 in a way that I never thought would be possible. Like, that's the reason Tom's here is because Lindsay was able to introduce us and get that started. So,
that's
um,
true. She's just like, hey Tom, there's
yeah.
there's doing 360 Sportsman. If you're tired of trying to run your own website by yourself, here's another guy.
So I'm curious, had you told Lindsay about your like problems and stuff that you're running into,
Oh,
or
I did. I
Lindsay,
didn't.
you just said like he has courses, you should try it or something?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
when you had mentioned you wanted to do something with wolves, obviously Tom just immediately came into my mind. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, nobody should be doing this but Tom. So you got to get Tom.
It all started with a DM.
I had
Um,
bought his course. So I bought, like, right when he first dropped his wolf hunting course, I was like, oh, I need that. And
Yeah.
it was really good. It's a really good course. So.
Thank
I
you.
know, I remember that. I remember, I mean, it was only a year ago, but a lot happens then. And it was the day that I was planning to go out to film Lindsay's wilderness survival masterclass that I had left like around 3 a.m. and my wife, who was pregnant at the time, was she she was 3 weeks before she was due, and we had just met with the doctor before the day before, and I was like, "Hey, I got to go film like this master class. Is that cool? You know, it's over in Lewiston, about 9 hours away." And she's like, "Yeah, everything seems good. So yeah, you could go." I'm like, "Cool." So yeah, I leave at 3 a.m. and my wife was not looking good. And this is our first baby, and I was just like, "Uh, doctor says we're good. You're not looking good. Uh, but I guess I'll go because we planned this, which was bad, bad, bad. Okay. So I was like an hour away from Lewiston, so like 8 hours from home when my wife calls me and says, I'm six, I'm at a 6 millimeters, centimeters, I don't know,
Yeah.
dilated. You need to turn around right now. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I turned all the way back another 7, 8 hours back home. But Lindsay was super chill. I mean, I was heading out to go film her, and she was just, you gotta do what you gotta do. And I did not miss the birth. So they did the epidural, which slowed things down. But that was always a fun memory of just thinking like the day that I was gonna go film Lindsay's course was the day my daughter was born.
I actually thought this was gonna go a different way. I thought you were gonna say you got stuck like you're gonna go to Lindsay and then Lindsay was the one that
Ah!
put the baby out. I thought
Well,
I
Lindsay
was like,
delivered.
where's this going?
Lindsay delivered our baby. Yeah,
Yeah, she
she
delivered
could
the
do
baby.
anything.
in
Little
the
do you know that
snow, in a shelter.
in the lean-to, she delivered our firstborn.
Yeah.
No. But yeah, that was so we've filmed we later, actually on the weekend that my daughter was due, is when we did film the Wilderness Survival Masterclass. And we went through a lot of the skills that Lindsay used on Alone and just throughout her life, her outdoor career. And so she was on Alone the Beast, which was a 30-day challenge. Is that right? 30 days?
Yeah.
A 30-day challenge and um where she was essentially with two other competitors and no gear, right?
That was different, right? So what year was that when you did that show?
We filmed it in 2019 and then it released 2020.
Okay. And that is an attack like that's kind of a part of the series alone, right?
Yeah, they called it a spin-off of Alone, but
Yes.
it was produced by the same company that produces Alone. The History Channel produced it.
Mhm.
And they just wanted something that focused on primitive skills and showcased those. So they decided to give us a dead animal instead of any tools. So we had no tools whatsoever, and we couldn't use anything off of our clothing as a tool. We had to make everything from nature that we needed. That
That's
was
crazy. And so I guess break it down. So first of all, how many people that were contestants as well? Like how many?
The format of this show is different. So usually on the main alone show, they put everybody out. They put, I think, 10 people out all at once. But this show, they decided to do it where each episode was its own group of people. So I was the first episode, and they put three people out in a team for each episode, three different people.
Okay.
And so mine was a group of three. It was me and then two other guys.
Okay. And then so how that went down, like did you guys have to build a shelter? I mean, I guess yeah, break it down for us. Like what happened?
Well,
And
basically, they used the local tribe to obtain the moose. So the tribal community would go out and hunt because we got a moose. And they would go out and hunt the moose. And once they got a moose down, you were just waiting back at base camp for them to get a moose. And once they got a moose down, then it was like, okay, it's go time. They took us out, dropped us at the moose site, and left us with just the clothes on our backs and the dead moose. And so first priority was to get it gutted so that it could cool down so we could use the meat. But we didn't have, I think we got out there like early afternoon, so we didn't have very much daylight left. We had no fire, we had no light. So we were just working with whatever daylight we had. So we were able to get it gutted. I kind of focused primarily on that. One of the other guys started working on building a shelter for us to sleep in that night. And we kind of tag teamed back and forth on those two tasks because those were the only things we would be able to get done in that time frame. And we were hoping that there would be some kind of like a nappable stone, something that we could chip and get a sharp edge on to use as a knife because we didn't have knives. But there was nothing. It was like shale or granite. Those were kind of your options, which are both horrible. So using shale, like the sharpest piece of shale I could find, I ended up being able to get it gutted, but it was hard because their moose's skin is thick, it's
yeah.
tough, and it was really hard to get through it. So the first night basically got it gutted, got it propped open, and we had a very meager little shelter worked up, and we just crawled in there for the night and waited for daylight so that we could get back to work. The next day, I focused on getting it quartered and getting quarters stashed. One of the other guys kept working on the shelter, and then the other guy went to start working on trying to get a fire. And so we had to cut like a little strip of the moose hide to use as a cord to basically build a makeshift style of a bow drill. But he ended up using an older technique where he didn't have a bow. Like usually you take a string and you tie it onto a stick and it's tight, and then you put your little spindle into it and it creates tension and you run it back and forth like a bow.
Mhm.
He ended up just holding both ends of the hide in his hands and running the spindle that way, which was a really cool idea. I'd never really seen that done. Um, and he worked on that for the first day for like 7 hours straight and never got a fire.
Oh, no.
So we ended up getting the moose meat, quartered, stashed, started salvaging what we could from that, kind of got our shelter in a little better place and played around with fire the second day. And then by the third day, the first guy that left ended up getting sick. He was not feeling very good, so he ended up tapping out on the third day. So that was just me and one other contestant. And he kept working on fire, and we ended up getting fire. I think it was the third day we got fire. So at that point, immediately we just started cooking moose meat because we were hungry. So we ate a bunch of moose meat, and we just kept trying to make our situation better and better. We kept figuring out better ways to get water and try to stay hydrated because that was kind of a challenge. Then the second guy ended up tapping out on day 8. He went back to his family, and I stayed at that spot. By the time he left, we had built a smoker setup. So we were smoking moose meat to preserve it so that we would have it for later on in the show. And I kept working on that. I ended up having a bear that wanted to come and hang out with me for a while, and ultimately ended up making me move my camp to get some distance between me and him. And then I made it the full 30 days and ended up winning all by myself. So that was kind of cool.
That is so awesome. So it definitely a lot different. So what, like, even though everybody else tapped out, why did they require you to stay longer? If
Because
um,
the
yeah,
requirement for winning that series is to stay for 30 days, because
30
that's your
days.
ultimate goal. Yeah.
Okay.
And then typically they'd have like a $500,000 prize, right? In like the normal season.
Yeah.
And they didn't
It,
really advertise like a prize like for this
Yeah,
season.
their goal for this show was really they wanted to focus and on highlighting primitive skills. That was their goal. They didn't want it to be focused on some sort of a prize. So they did it a different way. The show wasn't as well received as the original Alone. They didn't market it super well, and so people didn't know what to expect when it popped out. They were just kind of thinking regular Alone. And because it was so different, the hardcore Alone fans didn't like it as much. It didn't go over as well, but it slowly gained steam over time. And I still have people reach out to me that are like, "Oh, I just watched your episode on Alone. That was so cool." And they people are finding it. It's on Hulu, it's on Prime, and it's on the History Channel. So people
Yeah,
still.
it's actually, so I was like, wait, I know that person. You're actually, I think it showed you as the cover at one point. Yeah. So
Yeah, they put my episode first, which was kind of an honor, I think, and I appreciated that. And it was the first one to air, and then they stopped airing them for a while. They aired my episode, but none of the other ones. And then like I don't know, it was a few months later they finally dropped all the other ones. So the way they put it out didn't go very smoothly, but in the end, it was cool and it ended up being received well later on by people, but the initial drop didn't go very well.
right.
I think if they
So
would have
like out
kept
of
like that prize money, that would have really helped. Like
Yeah,
if
but
it,
everybody asked that question. Like, why would they do it if there wasn't some
because
sort of
as
reward?
a viewer, like everyone wants the high stakes, like, yeah,
Mhm.
get after it, fight after it. But when it's not advertised, like that's why I don't know if you guys have seen anything of like Mr. Beast, like
Yeah,
that he's been putting out like $10 million, $5 million prize. Like that's what gets people to watch. So, but you won.
I did,
It-
and I'm glad I did it. It was a good experience for me.
yeah, no, it's a good I don't know, resume
Yeah.
line item.
It
But
ultimately helped me meet Tana, and start working for her, which if that was the only good that came from it, which it wasn't, then it would have been worth it for that. So,
But
yeah,
you've shared cool experiences too of just like what it was like being out there and having that experience. And it sounds really amazing. Just like at what point do you kind of just start leaving the outside world behind or did you miss home at different points? How was it for you in that regard?
I never really missed like civilized life because I like being outside. Like I like living out there, and I wish I could live more, not exactly that primitive of a lifestyle, but more of that kind of lifestyle most of the time. As it is, I don't really like all the trappings of society, but I did miss my kids and I worried about my kids because there was stuff happening at home. And once you're out there, you don't know, you don't get updates on how your family's doing. You don't know what's going on. You would only know if something really bad happened, then they would obviously come and tell you. But I worried about them and I missed them, but I was pretty content doing what I was doing. I'm very present where I am, and if I go someplace to do something, I can pretty well focus my mind on what I'm doing and where I'm at and accomplishing that goal. And then when I go home, I'm present at home. So I didn't really struggle too much with that.
that's awesome. Out of your experience, so before you did the show versus after, do you feel like you changed as a person? Do you feel like you've learned certain life lessons out, within doing that challenge?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway I came back home with from that experience was that I was limiting my potential because I went into it knowing that it was going to be difficult, knowing that there was going to be challenges and it would be hard. And you don't know how it's going to go. I didn't in my mind I was determined like I'm not leaving unless they force me to leave. And they will force me to leave if there's some medical reason or something like that that comes up, but I'm not going to just leave. And I thought that that would maybe be harder than it actually was. And once I did it, I'm like, wow, I can do this. And it wasn't that hard. So what else can I do that I'm limiting my mindset on. I'm not even thinking about it as an option because I'm too self-limiting in my mindset. So that it kind of opened my mind to the possibilities of what else I could do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, because yeah, I could see that being a thing too, just not knowing where you're, we always have these ideas, right? And I know this has no comparison what you did, but just simply going on a hunt sometimes, I've hunted with a lot of people that have the mindset they're going to stay there the whole time. And they plan a hunt. And the thing is they have it really good, right? They have a tent, they have all the gear they want. And we're talking about tapping out. I can't tell you how many people tap out on day 3 of a hunt. And it's like they have everything. You
Yeah.
have a tent, you have shelter, you have food. Why are you tapping out? And um I think you're right. There's a certain mindset, but probably before that they didn't know that that was going to be harder than it was, right? And so I think that's really important for people to, I think we all have to learn is where is our, like, what can we do? What's our capabilities? And what can we do in ourselves to help us push past our limits? I think that's really important. You yourself learn how to do that. I think that's really awesome to be able to push back your limits. And I think the biggest limit, I mean, you can be in the best shape in the world physically, but I feel like the biggest hold back is not our physical condition, but our mental game, our mentality. And I think there was a quote that I heard it was actually a couple days ago, and it sounds funny, but it was on a reel. And so you learn some things on reels, but it's like we can, it sounds really stupid, but it's like we can control our mind.
Hmm.
How cool is that? And I was like, you're right. We can control how we think.
Yeah.
Why do we let outside interferences control how we think and feel? We have control over our mind. We have control over our limits. And I know guys who are completely not in the best shape in the world to elk hunt or do
Yeah.
a hunt, but they're so mentally driven that they don't care how hard it is to get their 350-pound body up the mountain, they'll do it. So, but I also know the opposite of guys that are in the best shape in the world, but they don't have the mentality to stick it out on a hunt. So I've seen it go both ways. And I think personally, if you can do both, if you can be physically in good shape and mentally um, keen on your goal, that the sky's the limit. And so,
Yeah.
um, but anything else to add to that at all, or things that you've learned?
Well, yeah, I think that the thing that happens to people is there's kind of two parts to it, like you said. They either go into the situation with rose-colored glasses, only thinking about the positives and the fun parts, and then they get out there and they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that it's cold and it's not a comfortable place to sleep and I'm tired and my muscles are sore." And so then, they have that hit them and that brings their mindset down a notch. Or and it could be both. You have people that go out there and they want to stay and they knew it was going to be tough, but they get out there and your brain starts playing this game with you where it starts telling you like, "Oh, you're not taking care of something that you should be taking care of at home. Like you really shouldn't be there." You start talking yourself out of the thing that you initially really wanted to do. And when you're uncomfortable and you're cold and you're hungry and you're tired, your brain starts to get louder and louder on all these reasons why you should quit. And if you just have to have that, if it's something you really want to do beforehand, you got to have that set in your mind of it doesn't matter what my brain tells me once I'm out there. My set point is I'm going to accomplish this thing that I set out to accomplish, and everything else just kind of falls to the wayside because that main thing, you can't overcome that by that brain talk, that little mental talk in the back of your head telling you all the reasons you should quit.
I agree. And is there any tricks for those people? Like, so let's say someone does have that issue, and I think it takes a humble person to realize, hey, I realize I'm the type of guy that does. I do get burnt out by day 3. Like, what can you do, or what type of advice you would give them to help them break that barrier?
When I left alone and I got pulled back out into normal society, my brain kicked into overdrive. I couldn't sleep for 3 days straight. Wilderness survival skills are your ability to go out into a environment that's always changing, be able to get yourself back home safely. There's a lot of scenarios that can happen where your intention wasn't to end up alone or stranded somewhere, but it can happen. Anybody can be benefited by learning the basics of survival and understanding how to plan and prepare for that scenario. There are times where you can survive on very little, and it's very uncomfortable, and in some circumstances, it can lead it to a point where you can't survive. But with the skills that I'm going to teach you in this course, you can take a bad situation and turn it into one where you not only survive, but you're also thriving. I look back at how peaceful and serene and simple life was for those 30 days on Alone, and sometimes I honestly miss it.
Well, I'd say, do you actually want to be out there past day 3? Because if that goal isn't actually strong enough to motivate you, truly at your core, maybe it isn't what you want. Like, why are you out there? Are you out there because you really want to accomplish this thing and it matters to you personally? Or are you out there just for clout or to say that you did it? Or, what is the goal? What is driving you to try to accomplish this thing? Because maybe it actually isn't aligned with what you really want. And if it's not, then stop trying to do that. But if it is what you really want, you have to be in tune with what's going on in your mind, and you have to be paying attention to your thoughts because they are going to dictate your trip. They're going to dictate your experience. So pay attention to that inner dialogue, that monologue that's going on in your mind. And if it starts to go negative, you got to turn it around. You got to be like, no, I knew I was going to feel this way when I was out here. This is normal to feel this way. But just because I'm thinking about going home doesn't mean I'm going to go home.
Yeah,
It makes
I
you
think
wonder.
yeah.
It just makes you kind of question like how much you really love that interest or that hobby or that sport, or like you're out there just because you tell people you're a hunter or you like to do something. And so like you're out there for those days, but when you're not getting the success, then you start feeling like, oh no, I'm gonna go home empty-handed, and then it all just starts crumbling onto the person.
Negative self-talk.
Yeah.
Negative self-talk spirals down, and then you end up just quitting and giving
I
up.
show myself on social media as a hunter. I tell people that I'm a hunter, but you're not acting like a hunter who really loves to hunt.
Yeah, there is something to be said, especially in a world with so much noise now, and we're so connected online. There is a surreal feeling when you're dropped off in the middle of nowhere with no connection to that. We had this conversation about Alaska where, like anywhere, like in Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, anywhere I've backpacked with horses and mules, you can pack back 25, 30 miles and I still feel like I have an exit.
Mhm.
Like it's like, okay, let's say worst case scenario, our horses die. They all get some weird illness, they tip over dead. I can still walk out
Yeah.
and get to the pickup, like it's gonna suck, but I can still do that. There's a surreal moment when you're dropped off in the middle of where, in Alaska, and this is before inReach, where you're like, holy crap, I have zero connection. I have zero way in checking up with my family, like you were saying. And I didn't stay 30 days. I think the longest I've probably done a hunt, staying in camp, is probably a little over 15. But 15 days doesn't seem long for a lot of people, but it can be. Like when you're 15 days and you have no clue what's going on at home, that can play a lot of tricks in your head. And I like what you said about how to get in the mindset. One thing that I think we all have our own ways of doing it. You're talking about being in the present. I kind of think of the present and the future. I'm like, because sometimes if I'm too much in the present, I don't know if you can relate to this or not. If things are really rough in the present, I don't want to think about the present. And so I think a little bit more in the future. I'm like, okay, today's a really sucky day. Today really sucks, but it's okay. It's going to get better. Like there's still a moose on the other side of the ring. Like,
Yeah,
um,
you always have that thing you're working towards.
yeah. And so I always, that's always in the back of my mind. It's, if I didn't have that, then I would have no reason to be out there. Like I always go and, in a hunt with the mindset of a mission. Like I'm here to fulfill a mission. And what's going to hurt more than the weather? My ego, and I walk off the mountain and I do not kill what I want. Like if I actually have to pack up and leave and I do not fill my tag and I eat it for the year, that to me is worse than anything. And I don't know if it's just something I've picked up over time, but in some way it drives my confidence. I love, I mean, it's my passion hunting. I love to hunt and I love success in a hunt. And sure, I mean, it's always good to look at the scenery, but for me, I can't help and deny the fact that when I come off a hunt unsuccessful, there's a little bit of sadness inside. And for me, instead of I don't like that sadness. And so I'm there to kill. And I don't know if that's a bad thing to say, but I'm there to fulfill my mission. And I don't care what the weather does. I don't care who's at camp moping and
Hmm.
whatever. I've actually, our family's been really good hunting with Adam Tan, our whole family. We're really good at hunting together because we know we can stick it out. Like we've all know how to do it. But anytime I hunt with someone new, I have to lay down some ground rules. And I've always brought up that um, I'm here as long as I have to fill my tag. Like if you feel like at any chance you're going to have to come home, we might have to drive separate. Like if we're at a hunting camp, for example, we both decide to go on a hunting camp. We're going to do a hunt in Wyoming. But I'm like, I always drive in some way if I'm hunting with a friend that I hunted somewhat, but not a lot. I don't know his limits. I will drive separate on purpose because I'm like, if you have this feeling you have to come home, I don't want to feel like you're dragging me down.
Hmm.
And it's
Really
no
good.
offense. Yeah, and so we'll have to drive separate because in a lot of cases it happens. I mean happens more than you think, and it's a 3 day window. I can't understand. It doesn't matter who I've ever brought out. It's a 3 day window max. But if you can break that 3 day window, it almost like you can stay out as long as you have to.
Yeah.
Um, I
Wait,
think
is that why you always make me drive separate? I was kidding. I was kidding.
but
We've never done an overnight together, so
yeah. Well, I don't know if you can agree to that. Like, I think a lot of it is like the first couple of days I do, I actually, and maybe this is what I'm sharing. I don't know. I'm just getting my thoughts put together, but I am the same way in some way where the first couple of days of a hunt, I'm almost like I should go back to work.
Hmm.
Like what am I doing out here? Like I I had that feeling this year because this year was probably one of the very few years I did not plan my summer properly, and I actually had more work than I felt like that I should have had. And so I very much overwhelmed myself during hunting season. But I forced myself to break that window. I was like, if I start hunting, I'm going to get into it, and then I'm not going to want to stop. And
Hmm.
so it took a couple days to get myself in the groove and to not work and to tell everybody I'm not coming back and to ignore my phone calls. I'm sorry, I probably I've lost a lot of work doing that, but I'm I don't want to work my whole life. Come
You're
on.
happy. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
happy.
like I
There's
meant
balance
to
there.
like you have your whole life to work, and I like to enjoy hunting, but it's getting yourself in the mindset and the groove, and after camping past that 3 or 4 day mark, whatever day that is, um and then it's like now it's on, and that is now your job. That is now your obligation is to kill. And so I love to set time aside. If anyone can, you set time aside to hunt. And if you're it's really hard to do these work a couple days, hunt a couple days, right? It's just hard to get yourself in the mental mode. I like to just take off a long period of time, get what I need to get off the mountain, come back to work, and I just feel good. I'm like, yeah, I got my bull elk or my muley buck for the year. That high will get me through all the way until the next fall. And so,
Oh,
um, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I
Those are
mean,
your nightmares. We now know what you have nightmares about is coming home with a nice paper tag, not bloodied up and crying as you drive home. That's what Tom dreams about. But
I actually have weird dreams. Like I have dreams where I'll pull up and there's a big muley buck, and all of a sudden my barrel,
it just
Like,
starts like
no.
flopping.
like a cartoon, and I'm like, what the heck? And then the deer runs off. I'm like, what's happening? Or
Those are fun.
I'll shoot like there's like a wolf pack comes in. That's my you don't want to know my nightmares. My nightmares are the wolf pack runs in and I just keep shooting and nothing dies. And I'm just like,
Nothing.
why is nothing dying?
And then you
And I
see them
wake up in
disappear
a
into
deep
a herd of
sweat.
elk.
That's my reality.
That's your-
As you're talking though, Lindsay, and a little here, Tom, about some of these things, I'm thinking hunt prep and wilderness survival because
Yeah,
those
yeah.
are two.
Sorry, I get distracted.
No, no,
Taylor, notice he gets me back on track. I get on these tangents, and Taylor's just like, "Get
Give
back."
redirect.
Redirect.
I don't have cool stories about wolves, but I guess I could serve that purpose.
How's the wolf hunting going? Have you been getting any action? You been hearing any talking? Like,
I was gonna say, like, my circumstances are unique too because I it's hard for me to get out because I have 5 kids and
yeah, that's a lot.
I'm the main, primary caregiver over here.
Yeah,
So it's hard for me to get out. And that's one of the things that's super motivating for me when I am out there is it takes so much effort for me to get a window to go.
yeah.
Like I have to have somebody fill in for me. Somebody's setting aside their life to help me be able to go out and be in the woods. And so if I get that chance, it's so valuable to me. Like there's no way I'm going to not use every minute of that time because it's a hot commodity for me.
Mhm.
And that's been my year this year. I'm so busy. We have a little boy that we're fostering. He has a lot of visitations. We have a lot of meetings. We have all this stuff happening that it's been really hard for me to get out at all for predators this year. And but I recently made a contact that I'm really excited about. I have a husband and wife here that I met who have property in the area where one of the areas where I like to wolf hunt, and I know there's wolves in there, but access in that area is kind of limited. And they have a big piece of property, a ranch that butts up against a lot of that country that I've been trying to get good access to. And they want me to come out and they want to show me. They're like, we know when the wolves are in here. We see the elk come in. Not too long after that, the wolves come in. Then the elk are gone. And then when the wolves are gone, the coyotes are here. And there's just this pattern that they've seen. And they have horses, they have, cows and stuff. They want somebody to come and hunt in that area and on that land. So that opportunity just popped up this year. And I'm running out of time to utilize it because here in Montana, our season closes even for private property. We can't hunt it year round.
Oh, so I'm private now too, huh? I felt like at
Yeah,
least certain areas I thought you could,
I'm gonna
but
have to look closer at this area because, that could be a possibility that I just haven't seen that yet. But I know Idaho, like you can hunt on private, right? All year.
well now they changed it to where most of the public too you can. And
Really? Wow, that's awesome.
I've been really I know I probably get ignored, but I have wrote a lot of letters to Montana
Oh, thank you.
about trying to get the hunting season lengthened because
Mhm.
um they always fight the grizzly bear in the trapping, right? Like they're like the biggest reason of shortening the trapping season is because the grizzly bear comes out of the den and he has a chance to end up in the foothold.
Yeah, and it's such a short season. It's hardly even worth trapping it.
No, it's not. I actually got Montana. Well, this year I decided to pick up Montana tags and trapping. And so I tried to trap. There was a wolf pack in Montana. I don't live that far from Montana. So yeah, I had to unfortunately pay the non-resident fees, but I was like, dude, I want to help. I care about these animals just like everybody else. I've taken mule deer and elk in Montana. I got to get back. And so but yeah, they didn't give me enough time. Like literally a month and a half. That's it. It's like you just start figuring them out, and they only made 2 passes through there, and so
Right. Good
you're just starting to figure them out. You're like, okay, they moved through here, so let's move the trap here, and then you're just trying to figure them out, and all of a sudden, got to pull your traps. Season's
Yeah.
over, and like and most of the Idaho trappers, the majority of their luck's in March, and it's
Mm.
like we're missing a big, really good window there, and but then also with the hunting. I do my best work in the summer and early fall. You can still, I actually have a lot of luck. I've killed a lot of wolves in the month of September. So, but there is a
Yeah.
season then.
I've had
I
a
just,
lot of encounters with wolves in September. I just out, archery hunting. It's like
yeah.
seem to run into them more often.
They're easier to pattern and they don't move as much.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue is the elk hunters, right? Because they're actively pushing them around, so they don't have that pattern as much. But like what I loved with Idaho is their original season before they did the full years, they at least had the month of August, and that prevents those wolves were so patterned, and the elk hunters weren't in the woods yet pushing
Right.
everything around, and so I was able to pattern wolves and work on them and able to execute and I just wish Montana do that because I I know some pretty
It
good
would be
wolf
really
pack.
nice.
Yeah, and I'm just like I keep writing letters hoping something's gonna happen because it has nothing. It's not gonna harm the grizzly bears whatsoever to lengthen the hunting season.
No, no, there's no
Yeah,
risk there.
yeah.
And we need it. Like the population's exploded here.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a lot of wolves.
I want to do a video on it, and I probably will. Actually, I was thinking about doing it today, um, about Montana density. It's insane. Like if you actually see the densities in the regions, and because you get people from Bozeman and Billings that are like, I don't see a wolf problem here, and it's like, well, of course, you're not in a wolf area. Like
Right.
Bozeman has a little bit, but it's like you get to, certain parts that it's just dense.
Yeah.
Like the majority of the wolf population is actually on a fourth of the state, if
Yeah.
that. Like
Yeah.
it's that holds like you think about 1,500. Well, what are they saying now for Montana? Like 1,100, 1,200 wolves,
I don't know. I haven't looked.
but it's just all condensed, all in one general area.
There's a lot here where I'm at. And
Yeah,
it's really interesting. You can see it changing when you go out with somebody like Adeline who hunts with hounds
oh yeah,
because they would have drainages and places where they would run bears or cats that they just keep losing them. They lose those drainages because there's wolves in them and they can't run in those drainages because the wolves will attack their dogs.
right.
So they're very cautious about keeping an eye on where the wolves are, and those places just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller that they can run because there's just wolves in more and more of those places, which is
I
it's
know,
interesting.
and I would go there in a heartbeat. It's just the season's too short.
Yeah.
It's game on.
I'm gonna shoot you right down.
Although wolves are the most intelligent animal, one of the hardest animals to harvest, it is by far the most rewarding hunt of all time.
I'm gonna shoot you right down. Boom, 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 boom. Take you home with me. I'm gonna shoot you right down.
It's not easy to get started, but you'll notice there's a difference between those who just come out empty-handed, and then there's those guys who figure out how to wolf hunt, and they're pulling off several wolves every single year. We're going to give you the secrets. Those secrets that other people are holding back, we're going to give those to you.
Bang, 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 bang. Knock you off of your feet. Take you home with me.
I just knocked 3 wolves with my bow. All right, Taylor, dragged it back.
Oh, I'm just looking at those maps. You had brought up the Montana one. It looks like in 2024 it was 1096 wolves. So I'm not quite sure. I can't find a current one there, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was basically 600 wolves over the objective is
Oh
what
yeah,
the
that's a
Foundation
lot.
for Wildlife Management had on their website. But yeah, so when you were talking there about kind of the mentality that you have to have in order to like stay out for, a certain period of time or to like go do hunts or go do these outdoor adventures, like what you've taught in your master classes actually really pairs really well together. So you got wilderness survival and you got hunt prep. And it kind of dawned on me here that like the prep that you put into your adventures, whether it's physical, mental, your gear, which you talk about like a lot of that stuff in your wilderness survival masterclass, like you talk about mentality and you also talk about gear. We talk about the physical prep side of things and the hunt prep fitness nutrition side. it all just kind of comes together to make you more ready, prepared for to be out there, for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would really recommend people who are kind of struggling to feel ready for those adventures, whether it's like a mental thing or a physical thing or a gear thing. Um, Join those master classes. They're really affordable. They're on 360 Sportsman, and Lindsay goes through the preparedness side of on the nutrition of fitness, getting your body ready and your mind, as well as the skills that you might need in case you do end up in a scenario where you have to stay for longer than anticipated. So I don't know. I just kind of was thinking the two really can lead you, even though you're not in like a survival situation. The two courses together can really lead you to feel ready for these adventures in a way that you might not have thought before.
Well, I think that is kind of a part of that mentality side of it because that's one of the things that can pop up for people when they're out there that can make them quit is a fear of, whether that not necessarily getting stuck out there, but just not being able to handle a situation that comes up.
Mhm.
And, the the whole point of a survival thing is to end up not needing to use those skills because you
Mhm.
have prepped and you can get out. But you don't question yourself back there as much when you know you've prepared and you have the skills, the tools, the knowledge and the physical capability to do this thing that you wanted to do. That confidence helps you stay. It's like you're not sitting there questioning your skills or your ability or your gear.
Trying to remember the wording that you had said in the wilderness survival course, but it was kind of like the more prepared you are, the less of a survival situation it feels like because
Yeah.
you already anticipate it. So it's never really surviving. It's just like dealing with a problem that just came up versus like there are moments, of course, where maybe if you fall
Hmm.
into a body of water or something, but if you prepared for that, it might not really feel like a survival situation. For some, it can, while others it might not. And so there's this subjective like definition of what survival is for every person, depending on how prepared you are. Like your guys' idea of what survival is might be a lot different than mine. Like I might not be at that level that I would like to be at, but the challenges that you guys might face out there, you might say I've dealt with this in different ways, or okay, this is just a different form of it. Whereas for me, my whether it's my experience or whatever, like that's the first time I've encountered that. Maybe I'm not prepared, and so I'm like, this is borderline survival for me. How do I figure this out?
Mhm.
So that's something to think about for people. Like, what is your capacity, or what's your current understanding of survival? Like, how do you define that? And how can you turn survival situations into thrival situations or just dealing with problems that come up?
Well, here's the thing that I'm really impressed with Lindsay was the fact that you did that show. I already can tell you like there's times when we watch this show, my family's like, "Oh, Tom, you'd be good at that." I don't think I would, and I'll tell you why. I get hungry, and I get hungry really fast, and it's like I've been all my hunts, every single hunt I've been on. I I can live on fairly, small amounts of food. Like I can, full day, I can go with the sandwich and a couple candy bars. But and I mean candy bars more like protein bars, and Snickers. Well, Snickers is technically a protein bar, right?
Yeah, you got your peanuts in there.
Yeah, peanuts. All right. So I love those. Those are my go-tos. Laura bars. Anyways, but here's the thing. You don't have access like on your hunt, like when you weren't eating a lot, especially when you have to work up that moose. You're sitting there, you're trying to get moose out. Like I tell you what, like knowing myself and like I'm already putting limits in my head, Lindsay, and I'm so sorry I'm doing this already. I'm just like I'd be sit there and I'd be about an hour in on this moose. I'm like, dude, I gotta eat something.
Just
Like
eating raw moose.
just like just give me a scoop of that blood.
Yeah, right.
Whew, all right, or bite out of the liver or something. I
Right.
don't know. I'm just like, you're just like, oh, finally after day three we were able to eat, and I'm like, dude. The food is that is my weakness. That right there, if I found a way to break that, that would be my tap out is the food. It wouldn't be the fact that, coming home and I'll tell you why. My wife would be really disappointed in me if she's like, you're a failure to me.
What the hell?
But yeah, you're supposed to stay out there for 30 days.
Yeah.
Like you failed me, you failed our children. Of just kidding.
No, that was my mindset there too. I was like, there's no way I could go back and face my people who have given up so much to allow me this opportunity to go do this thing and be like, yeah, I just didn't feel like staying. How
Hmm.
could I live with myself if I made a decision like that? Like, have some pride.
Yeah, exactly. But the food would have got me, I'll tell you. So I'm like, I'm really impressed what you're able to do. There's a lot like a self-control. And I'll tell you what, not having food in your stomach, that really meant works on you mentally. You know, I mean, hangry, that's a real thing. Getting a little hangry. It's like, oh, I just needed a meal. Now I feel so much better. Why was I so angry before? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. And it was interesting that side of it because I'd never, I'm blessed. I'd never been, somebody that had to deal with extended periods of hunger.
Yeah.
And, once we had day three, we had fire, I was able to cook meat, but it was still like you could only eat so much meat
Yeah.
in a day?
So what do you feel like being on that carnivore diet? Like what did your body, sorry, yeah, no, I want to know about this. Like what did you feel like with just a meat diet? Did you,
I mean, I felt good. I didn't feel
okay.
bad, but with that out there, moose is lean. There's not a lot of fat in it. There's really no other sources of food. I get maybe a handful of rose hips or berries that I could forage during the day, and that was the only other thing I had to eat.
Mm.
So I lost weight. I lost a lot of weight. I lost 25 pounds in 30 days.
Yeah.
And I didn't have 25 pounds to lose. So by the time I was getting towards the end of it, I felt fine, but my body wasn't working like it normally would. So I would see maybe like a grouse or something up a hill. So I would normally be able to just kind of trot up the hill, and go try to catch up to it. I would try to do that and I'd have to sit down because I'd get lightheaded or I
Mm.
would just feel weak. My body just didn't have the nutrition that it needed to be able to do the stuff that I normally could do. If people are on the carnivore diet now, you see them, they're eating a lot of eggs, they're eating a lot of fatty meat. So they're
Fatty
getting
meat.
a lot more nutrients and a lot more calories than I was getting out there. I was not eating enough food to
Yeah.
sustain that.
I can only imagine. And you don't have like I don't know, I love carbohydrates like
Yeah.
that really for me that's energy. Like that's my energy. I can't do I mean I could do it. I just with just meat alone, I feel like you just don't get the energy you need just
No.
for meat alone. Especially lean meat like you said. Fish, I feel really good with fish.
I
Like
have like with a carnivore diet, you have this like sustained baseline energy and you don't have those like spikes, highs and lows. Um, but you also don't have those really high energy moments that you get with carbs where you can just put out some effort. That's
yeah.
what I found with carnivore. It's like it's steady energy, but it's not you don't have that like extra level, that little extra in the gas tank that you need
Mhm.
for a hard push on something.
So
Well,
in that hypothetical situation where someone is in that, survival scenario, or they're out there for an extended period of time that they don't know how long they're going to be, most people are going to say like, I'm just going to live off the land and do that. What's the like reality of that? Or what diet could you successfully live off the land without losing like 25 pounds a day, or not a day, in 30 days?
I remember during that challenge, because they before we went out, they talked to us a lot about the native tribe that lived there and how they survived without all the tools because they didn't have all those things back in the day and they survived. And I remember sitting there listening to them talk about this and I was like, yeah, but they had generations of time where they had built up patterns for foraging, for preserving things ahead of time, utilizing the summer months to gather the things that they needed to survive through the winters. They would travel, they would migrate around at different times to be in the places that they needed to be. I'm like, it's not like these people were just dropped out here with no history here and nothing stored from the summer. Like they knew how to forage and prep things ahead of time. They'd make pemmican, they'd make all these different things to cover their needs over the wintertime. So our situation, our scenario was not a realistic like basically you're a tribal member from way back when living on the
Just
land.
imagine as they're showing you this slideshow, like
I know,
you
I was like,
you come from a history of this land, and you're like, I've
yes.
never been here
Well,
before.
and they had time, like you said, they had time to prep, get like picking
Yeah.
the things in season,
And they were living in tribes. They had groups of people to help. Yeah, they had more mouths to feed, but they also had more bodies to work and to gather the things that they needed. So I don't think it's not realistic really to go drop off in some place with an extremely harsh winter and just be like, I'm just going to live off the land, starting bare with nothing as soon as winter hits. That's you're probably going to die.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the odds aren't good for you. You might be fine, if you get a moose down or something, I don't know. It's that's a big ask, but for people that want to live more of that kind of a sustenance lifestyle, that's where that whole foraging and preservation aspect of our history comes from. They would gather during the times of abundance during the summer where there's a lot of things that you can use and they knew how to preserve them and save them for the winter months when they needed that and they couldn't find it.
That was
Mhm.
really smart that you guys did that with the moose and smoking it, and trying to, so that way it doesn't spoil.
Hmm.
How were you able to do that? Like what? I mean, I guess I need to watch the full thing. I've watched parts of it, but well, maybe okay. You don't have to tell me. We just all have to watch it, right?
Watch party together.
We just gotta watch
Watch
it.
party.
Just stop and pause and just like give reactions, like, what is that guy doing?
Yeah.
What is happening? Yeah, it's short too. They did it in episodes, so it's not that long. They had to cut a lot of stuff out. So you don't see a lot of the different things that we did.
Hmm.
Um, and in like the building the smoker, there's like little tidbits of things here and there. But
Okay.
smoking it, I'm so glad we did that because I ended up having to move my camp and I can't carry a moose 2 miles away, a whole moose to another camp. So I had smoked enough meat to last me. I counted it out to where I had 3 strips of meat for breakfast, 3 strips of meat for lunch, and 3 strips of meat for dinner for the second half of the show. That's what I had already saved up and prepared. And I took that with me, and it would have got real hard for me to keep using the quarters for food because they froze solid. But like the strips of meat being dried frozen wasn't a big deal because it's thin. I can put it in my mouth, break off a piece and get it thawed out enough to eat it. But it would have been real hard once those quarters were frozen solid to get anything off of there with a piece of shale. I would have done it, but it would have been a pain in the butt. So
Yeah.
So there, that moose, they killed it right there. Like that's where they just left it, right? Okay. So take the moose out of that picture. What do you think that your situation would have been like? I mean, obviously there could have been a potential for. Do they give you permission to kill if something comes up? Like,
there were certain things, so we had to follow, we had like a basic small game license, I believe, for the area. So there
okay,
was certain things that we were allowed to take and certain things that we weren't. So like I could take a grouse. I could have taken a porcupine. There was a porcupine that was like working around at some point. There were signs of it, and if I could have found it, I would have killed it for sure because they had a lot of fat on them,
hmm
and I wanted him, but I couldn't find him. So there's very limited things that we could have hunted, but if you were actually out there in a survival situation, then whatever.
fair game.
It's all fair game at that point.
I wonder what that would have been like if the challenge had been just dropping you off with no moose.
If they could make it a real scenario where you could travel and go find caribou or moose or muskox or whatever, that would be an interesting scenario. But the way those shows are set up, you have your own little area and you can't travel out of it. It's pretty big.
Mhm.
But for big game hunting, it's not big. So if there's not an animal in your area, then you can't go find one. So that would have made it a totally different challenge for sure.
Yeah, I always felt bad when I'd watch the show alone, and we've a couple of the guys that were on the show we've talked to as well, but it's like I've hunted Alaska. I've only hunted Canada once, but I've hunted with the family. Even before Montana moved up, I hunted Alaska a lot. There's a lot of just empty country with no wildlife, and that's what people don't realize. They watch Natural Geographic. They think there's a moose on every ridge. There's just a lot of dead country, and you get dropped in the wrong spot. You're not going to have a single big game animal cross through anywhere near your area for several days. And moose are just
If at
like,
all.
Yeah, if it's like not really a moosey area, you might get a wander. I felt bad. There was this one guy. I forget his handle on Instagram, but I remember watching him get dropped off, and I was just like, dude, I feel so bad for me. There's this like where he got dropped off. There's this huge rock ledge, like, and then there's the lake, but it's like there's no animals that can get to him. He's like, there's this huge cliff that does this, and there's this little bench, and there's no way to get above the cliffs, and so he was stuck on like 2 acres, and so it was like all he can do, like he can't, the moose isn't going to go down there. No animal's going to go down there. There's too many cliffs, and he's on this little bench, and he's just all he's doing is living off squirrels. And finally, by like day 20, he's like, I can't eat another squirrel.
I
I
can't
can't eat
even
another
those.
squirrel.
Well, I'm sure the people on the show were like, "Wow, this location is really good for shots because it's got a big cliff, but they're not. They're from New York. They're not looking at like, oh, is there going to be a chance for him to hunt something here?
Yeah, like there's no moose or any critters going through here, or you get some people that just seems like everywhere, like every other day, a moose is coming through.
Yeah,
So it's
they're in
like,
a
I was
spot.
like, oh, that's so you kind of, yeah, like you said, like people, like tribes, they're able to move with the herds and stuff. And I mean, I'm not saying, oh, they had it easy, but I get your perspective there, where you have patterns to survive, and I think that's important. But no, I think that's really awesome that you're able to do that. That's a pretty cool experience.
I learned a
So
lot about myself, and it was a cool area to be able to go see. I'd never traveled very much at that point in my life, and it was cool to go see someplace so different from here.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I always tell people too, anytime we brought this up right before we started, was just like now you see the value of a knife. And
Yeah,
and you always have a knife on you. You're just like Crocodile Dundee, instead of like Crocodile Dundee always had his knife on his belt. It's like always in your boot.
it
Yeah,
is.
like anytime, and you're using that knife all the time. Like it is like your main tool. You probably use it more than your phone.
I wanted a knife so bad when I was out there because it would have made so many things so much easier. And there was one day where a crew came out to get some footage. They would come out and do like a drone shots and get footage of the Northern Lights and different things like that. And he walked by and he had a knife on his belt. And it was like you get into this like primal mindset when you're out there. It's weird. It's kind of an interesting
You
mindset to
want
get.
to attack him and take his knife?
And I was like down on the ground working on something with a freaking rock, and about eye level, this knife goes by, and I was just like, oh. I wanted it real bad.
it's a little
So
Cain and Abel going on there.
yeah, I was like, I could totally take that from you right now. There'd be nothing you could do about it. But then my show would be over, so I guess I can't do that.
Yeah, your life would be over.
Yeah.
Uh, us New Yorkers would go for you. This crazy
But
Montana lady.
but I've
Yeah,
always been one of those people, like even since I was a kid, I was known for the fact that I always had a knife on me. And it's come in handy so many times. So I just kind of make it a point to try to have one. You never know when you're going to need it, and I've needed it, and other people have needed it a lot. So,
it
Yeah.
sounds like a lot of people's first impression with you has been with a knife, like
mhm.
pulling it out of some weird spot,
Well, it
whether
was
it's
always,
like
I think it was the Salt
an
Lake show, and
airport.
we needed a bunch of stuff. I think it boxes open, and they have these big, huge plastic ties around them. I'm like, gosh dang it. Anybody got something? And you just like whipped out your knife.
She's like, "How long?
It
This
was
long?"
not a big
Or
knife, but it's just like, wah, always in her hand. I'm like, Lindsay, put that knife away. I just kidding. No, it was super handy. Like, oh, thank you. Like it was good having her around. But and that made me feel like a beta. I'm like, oh, here's this guy
Why don't I have
who's
a knife?
who's unprepared and just does not have a knife. And Lindsay's sitting there just like,
Here you go.
that's called a knife. That's a knife. And and so no, it was awesome. It's awesome. Well, I think it's important for people like, like my pickup, I have all my tools, right? And it's like I feel pretty helpless. Like if I'm well driving up in the mountains, for example, like I always have my chains.
Yeah.
And they'd actually never even leave my pickup, even in the summertime. I
Yeah.
always have my chains. I always have my tools.
Mhm.
And I do have, I mean, I have lighters and knives in my pickup. I always feel like I always have everything I need in my pickup. There's always a gun in my pickup. And you just feel helpless when you're like, say you're driving up a mountain road and you're going on a hunt, and there's a wolf. You're like, oh wow, I'm an idiot. Why did I leave my gun at home? Like,
Right.
or something like that.
I've
But
had
it's
that
good.
happen. Because I keep my car totally stocked like that too. I have everything I need in there for almost any situation. And then when we take somebody else's vehicle and we go somewhere, I'm like, oh, I'll just grab this. And then I realize, like, oh, this isn't my car. I don't have that. They don't have one of those. There's so many times where I'm like, oh man, I wish I had my car because it's just stocked. It's ready to go. You gotta
Yeah.
keep your pack that way. You gotta keep your rig that way.
Now,
There's,
when you think about like a lot of people's perceptions of preparedness or like readiness versus like the reality, like whether it's a local flood, like say this last winter, there's a bunch of heavy water that came down and or melt and stuff, and people were having to evacuate. Like, how many people could say that they were legitimately prepared for that situation? Or, you know, you're in the backcountry, like how many times are you actually prepared for things that come up? And what would you say are some things that you've seen in the hunting industry or outdoor industry of of people's misconceptions about wilderness survival, like things that they think are a certain way, but it's just not that way. Like you think you're ready, you think you have what you need, but you're not because like what are some misconceptions that have come up over time?
I think the biggest one that I see is people they want to pack light, which I get. Like you don't want to carry the kitchen sink with you into the woods, right? Yeah, there's
Mhm.
a balance there between being prepared and being, over prepared and just hauling a bunch of stuff around and using all your energy to carry your house with you. So a lot of people are just like, well, I don't want to carry very much, so they won't bring some of the basic things back there that you need. And maybe it's gone fine for them every time before, but there's always unforeseen things that can happen, and then all of a sudden you're in a bad way. So like, I'll give you an example. Addie, the hound hunter, my friend over here in Montana, she's used to just she lets her dogs out, they follow a track and then she hikes in on the track to the tree or wherever the dogs are and retrieves the dogs and comes back. And usually that's a pretty quick trip. So you're not going to take like your full hunting pack with you just in case something goes wrong. She'll just hop out, go after the dogs, and it's fine. Well, we were out down in Idaho in the Lochsaw, which is it's rough country in there.
oh yeah.
And there's not that many access points. There's very few access points to cross the river to get into some of that other country. And the dogs went in and they went into some rough stuff and kept going, lost comms. She had taken off to start following them. She didn't have water. She didn't have food. She didn't have anything. She was just back there with her radio and her dogs. And they ended up hours back there to try to traipse down because she had a couple young dogs and one of them got hung up somewhere and just wouldn't go. So she had to go in and find her dogs. And the hike itself was so hard and brutal that it was tough on her. By the time she got back out, she was very, very thirsty. If she had been down in there too much longer, she'd have been a hurting unit. And so there's got to be a balance between like what do I actually need if something goes wrong and what can I bring to make sure that I've got my bases covered. I can have water, I can have heat if I need to build a fire, have a little bit of food with me, and then there's also some ways where you can take those basic needs and you can pare them down into just a few things that are multi-use. They cover multiple needs. So you're not carrying something for every single thing. You're carrying two things that cover five needs. You can combine them and make them to where it's not that much to carry. But that's the biggest thing that I see with people is just they don't want to carry the weight, so they don't bring much with them. And it probably will be fine for a while, but that one day where something goes wrong, you're going to regret that decision. And that's another piece of why I pair survival with fitness, is I've always said, like, if you're not fit enough to carry the things you need with you to be able to make it through a survival situation in the woods, then you need to work out. You need to go do some rucking. You need to start packing some weight around and work on that because you really don't have any reason to be out there hiking around in the woods if you can't carry a backpack with the needs to survive overnight.
Yeah.
That's a problem in and of itself.
Right.
And you have a lot of equipment that you carry. I mean, when we did your pack reveal and you broke down every item, like a lot of it actually did have multiple uses for different reasons. But yeah, I could see. I mean, I think about my pack. After that, it made me really insecure. But my pack, a lot of things you guys do make me feel insecure, but in a good way. I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's right. I gotta go like get a whole bunch of new stuff, or like I'm never wearing this mystery ranch pack again.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the Pac-Man.
No, Lindsay looked at that pack and she was just like, "What are you doing?" Because we went on a bear hunt with Adeline and same Addie, and I packed like my whole pack down the mountain with my film stuff, and I really didn't need to, but I thought I would need all my stuff, and no, I was a hurting son of a gun because that was a steep hike. So I
Yeah, do you
mean,
remember Art? Do you remember what I said about your pack?
yeah, and then on a different adventure with Tom, like I was way underprepared for that one, and I mean we just didn't really pack enough water, and I think we did about 12
We
miles that day.
we didn't pack enough water, Taylor.
We okay, I didn't pack enough water, but you had smaller rations than what you normally did,
Well,
right?
I
Is what you
packed
said.
enough for me, and I found out
Uh,
that you didn't pack enough for yourself, so we had to
uh,
share. I had to share.
you
I had to hit
Tom
you with
was
water,
generous.
and then we were both out of water. And then, sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus.
Okay, I was underprepared. I'll just admit it and own it. So
And
I
we're
didn't
sitting
have
there trying to suck through your Walmart straw
my life
to.
straw, my good old life, and I'll say like that thing sucked. And so I
Okay,
would
sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the
no, no,
bus.
no, I didn't pack enough water, and it goes to show like you have to be prepared for these things. And so Tom and I, after finishing, I think my third, I only had like three water bottles or three or four. After finishing that, I was just eating huckleberries just to keep my mouth like moist and to just have something like going in because I was going crazy without it. And it was early September. So whether it's like early September where it's super hot and you're out elk hunting or doing, early season hunting or late season and it's like dumping snow, you gotta adjust like your gear and fit for yourself for these climates. Because in one end you could be maybe you're freezing and you don't have enough stuff, or you're sweating up and down and you have too much stuff, maybe not enough water.
How do you take all of this nutrition information and transfer it into hunting? This is going to help you keep your energy levels up. It's going to help you not hit a wall. This course is designed for anybody who wants help prepping for their hunts. We're also going to dive into just the foundations of health. So it's helping your body build stability. You want to do the same thing while you're out in the field. Welcome to the Hunt Prep Fitness and Nutrition course.
So I would recommend definitely going through Lindsay's courses here to make sure you know what it takes to be ready for some of these hunts, and you might want to go hunt Alaska or do some crazy sheep hunt or something, and you'll find out pretty quickly that if you're not prepared for these kind of things, it might not be a hunt anymore. It might be a survival situation, which is a real bummer when you've put so much heart into going out and wanting to be there.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think you guys have done some hunts like that, right? Or some sheep hunts, goat hunts that tested your limits.
Me or Lindsay got a nice goat.
Did get a goat. That was so much fun, but it was very physically challenging hunt. It was. I
Yeah.
was glad that I had done a lot of scouting and hiking and rucking beforehand because it was that's the most my knees have ever hurt on a hunt was my goat hunt. And it was the pack out. We did it really quick, so it was quick in and quick out, and I felt
And
it.
you're probably a lot more prepared than a lot of people.
I was pretty prepared, but it's just a heavy pack and you're hiking. We went a lot of miles in very few hours with not much rest and heavy packs, very steep country, and yeah, it'll take a toll on you.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to be said about being prepared. But Lindsay, thanks for joining us and sharing your experiences about loan and your backcountry wisdom. I have lots to learn from you. I feel like when I go out with you, you're like my second mom. Like, you need to just take, what are you doing?
Thanks
Like,
for having me, guys. It's been great. I love visiting with you. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
we sure have a blast with you, and we're gonna have you back. So thanks again, and go ahead and check out Lindsay's hunt prep and wilderness survival masterclasses on 360sportsman.org.
This episode is brought to you by Onyx Maps.